let's ride.
Welcome everybody to the Pulpwood Podcast.
Here we go.
Introduce yourself to all the drivers out there listening.
I'm TC, VTC. I know there's a lot of them out there that I've had to call out on TikTok, claim to be TC, but they ain't the original. but as long as we ain't in the same state, I let them use it.
Oh, yeah, let them slide. Come on.
That's right. But like we was talking the other day, my handle come about with, so my granddaddy was wine taster, and of course my grandma, she was lady taster, and then uncle was he was little taster. So all the guys at his company, when I would run, I'd spend the summers with him, and so all them guys just started calling me Taster's Choice because I was the only grandkid that would hang with him, and and it just got shortened up to TC. And I think it's been that way since about 1987.
Yes, sir.
But them was good times. I'd give anything to have them back. You know,
I know that's right, man. I miss my papa every day. Yes, sir.
There was nothing like. And I just remember the sleep I used to get. I could sleep behind him, and that don't matter what stretch of road we was on. I'd crawl in that bunk, and I could listen to that. I'd listen to that radio and that little bit of chatter on there, and I'd hear him talking, and I'd just fall right off to sleep. In fact, that got so bad that I can remember being in middle school, and I had a coax run out my bedroom window and had a Francis antenna on top of a PVC pipe stuck way up there, and I had a 12-volt battery sitting on a piece of newspaper on a little shelf there in my room, and I had an old 23-channel Midland hooked to it, and I would set that volume real low and just get that squelch right where if somebody got anywhere close to here and crack, it'd crack it, and I could sleep. Boy, you talk about sleep. Listen to that radio channel.
Yes, sir.
But they ain't like that now. I've got radios in all my tractors and my pickup trucks, and got one on my desk in my little office there at the farm, and you got to about just beg for somebody to answer you anymore.
It's about got that way in logging too, man. A lot of it used to be everybody talk, give bear reports and all that, and I tell you what, man, that's something we got to give.
I can remember sitting over at the wood mill back in my log hauling days, and I mean that's where it was at. You couldn't get a word in edgewise with them old boys over there, and I'm talking about big radios. We all sitting there at three different mills at one spot, and there's always somebody going to reach over and turn that power on, just drown everybody out.
Oh, yeah, everybody got to show off.
Yeah. But, man, we had was good times back then. But I don't know. I don't know why. I can't. I tell everybody whenever they say, damn, you wasted a lot of them years out there. And I said, I didn't waste them. I enjoyed every bit of it. Of course, there's good and bad and everything, and trucking has definitely got a lot of bad. But it's
oh yeah.
But the fact that that's all I ever wanted to do, there wasn't no question. There wasn't another choice for me. I was going to drive a truck, and it didn't. When I first got started, like I said, I got my CDLs at 18, and I can remember, I don't know if you remember when the CDL was just coming out, there was I can't even remember what the duo was, but I remember one of them, the old boy, little old short dude with a cowboy hat called Low Boy Lucas. And Low Boy Lucas and the other guy, they had a CDL study cassette tape deal with a workbook, and my granddaddy gave me that thing, and he said, they gonna grandpa me in, but you gonna have to get these special license that's coming out. And I said, man. I remember I was probably in, I don't know, 9th grade. I remember going to sleep every night listening to them tapes. And,
oh wow.
And then when I was 18 and they let me go take that permit test, I ran up there on my birthday and took that permit test. And I carried that permit not too long. And then I got a job with a cable laying company, pulling their backhoes around. And like I said, I was on a permit, and so we had 2 of us in the truck. And one guy had a CDL, and he made me drive because I was the young guy. And then one day he didn't show up. he got him another job. They looked at me and said, well, can you drive this thing? And I said, well, I've been driving it every day. And I said, but yeah, I can drive it. I said, but y'all gonna have to help me get my license. And so they said, well, just go on and get this week out and we'll schedule it. And they did. They sent me and another driver over there. And I remember thinking it's all or nothing. I ain't got but one chance. I got to make it happen. And
that's right.
I did. I walked out of there. We could go over here to North Augusta then and take it. And I remember doing the pre-trip, and then when they got done, they told me to stay put, and there would be another lady coming out to give me the road test. Mm-hmm. She popped up in there, and I knew all the place around there, but I was just going to see how far I could push it. And she come out there and got in the truck, and she said, we're going to go down to such and such road. And she was naming them off by names, and then she was just, them just looking at her pad and getting her stuff going. I said, okay. I said, well, just let me know when we're coming up on that road. I said, I ain't never been over here in the big city. And she said, city? This is North Augusta. I said, this is big compared to where I come from. I said, this is the first time I've gotten out. And she said, oh, Lord, I might not better let you go down through them neighborhoods then. And I said,
oh, wow.
You probably might not ought to. I said, I don't know. I said, I'm new. This is my first day. I came here to try to get my license so I could learn how to drive them. And she said, go out here and get on the big road. She made me get on the big road at exit 5. We went down to exit 1, made a loop. She asked me what the clearance was, and I bombed it. But we got back up there, and I guess she liked the way I shook them gears, because she said, "You was easy on the transmission." And I said, "Well, I had to be. My granddaddy used to pop my hand."
Oh.
He had a doggone ruler that he would, he'd do his logbook with. He'd keep that every time he put me to driving. He'd put that ruler in his hand. He was like an old school marm. He just popped the hell out of the backside of my hand every time I'd drive them gears. And he'd look at
make sure you got it right.
Yep. Or if he didn't feel like reaching up there and popping me, he'd just look over and say something smart assy like, "They gonna make him out of rubber next year."
Oh wow.
But that's how it all started. I mean, well, it started with him. It started riding with him, and
oh yeah.
I remember when he set me up one night, I was begging. I'd been pestering him all week, let me drive. He was driving an old Freightliner cab over then, and it was the first cab over I'd been in had air ride. And
wow.
And I kept on pestering him, and we got to it. We had a terminal in Atlanta back then, and we had just pulled into that terminal. And we was going to unhook from that loaded trailer and grab another trailer, and he got out and was talking to the terminal manager there, and he said, "Well, since you've been wanting to drive so bad," he said, "go over there and unhook that trailer." And he knew what was going to happen because I'd watched him do things a million times, but I got so excited I was going to get to drive that truck, I forgot all the protocols. And I backed up. I rolled them dollies down, and we had about 48,000 pounds on the drive van. And I rolled them dollies down and just till they just snug on the ground, and I was supposed to dump the air and pull the truck out. But instead, I just got in and dumped the clutch. And when I did, it was like a damn rocket shooting out from under that trailer. That thing slingshotted me, and I panicked. All I could see was the brick building coming up. You know, and I panicked, and I just jobbed the clutch and the brake at the same time, and just abruptly come to a shaking stop, you know. And he was just standing there with that grin on his face. He said, and I use this line with my kids all the time now. He said, I make it look easy, don't I? And I said, yeah, you make it all look easy. You know, he used to tell me, he said, look out that mirror right there. And I said, what? He said, I'm fixing to put them trailer tires on that white line right there, and I'm going to leave them there till you say it's long enough. And I said, yeah, all right, go ahead. And I thought I'd just, you know, I ain't going to say nothing. I'm just going to make him ride right here on that white line. And he would ride with those tires right on that white line as long as he wanted to. And he was something. But, you know, he had done it since he was a teenager. I mean, that's all he had ever done. And
them old hands, they're cut from a different cloth back in the day.
They were. I can remember just riding along with him, looking over and thinking, my God, look at his forearms.
Oh, yeah.
But that was all in years of coming up on, you know, wasn't no power steering, wasn't none of that. He used to tell me about, like, them old Emeryvilles, when they finally got some of them, that was uptown. And he was telling, you know, back before the interstate system, it was all 2-lane, and said they'd climb them hills, and it was slow going, but they'd go. And he said, but them things, the doghouse and the floorboard gets so dang hot in them. He said, you just shook your boots off and you was barefooted. And he said, you stopped at the gas station and grabbed a bag of ice, and you put one in your cooler and one bag in the floor.
I've heard old drivers doing that before back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, these drivers today, and even I didn't have it that bad. I mean, I didn't, like I say, I didn't get my CDLs till 1995.
Yeah.
And then, but I've been running some trucks with some foreign plates and things like that up till then, and did a lot of outlaw, especially weekends. Man, I had a guy that did some land clearing, and he had some old R model Mack dumps, and they'd get to hauling chicken litter on the weekend for the farmers, and it was nasty. But I wanted to drive so bad. I was 17 years old, just out there just running that chicken litter, and he used to say, just sit up there and act like you know what you're doing. You smell too damn bad for the DOT to mess with you.
Hell, he's right too.
But man, I've looked back on all them days, and that's what got me started. I drove everybody's junk because I wanted to drive, and they knew it. They could see the eagerness in your eyes, you know. And I drove junk, and then things got a little better, and then finally made it up. All I ever wanted to do was drive Peterbilt. I was big hood crazy, and I've taken a lot of jobs that were less money, but they had nicer trucks.
Didn't drive that large car.
Yep. And when I got that first cow truck, well, the first Pete that first 379 I ever got in was a 96 black cherry. Boy, that thing was beautiful, and had American class interior and old big yellow motor and 18 speed, and them boys was hauling golf carts, and they were on a little trailer like a car trailer, you know. It was you run them golf carts up there 2x2 like you was loading the ark, and had an upper deck and a lower deck, and I think we'd haul 23 or 24, 20-something carts at a time on them things, and they talked me into what, don't you want to ride? I was actually friends with the boy's son, and I had just set a date up to go do an interview with a little with a dump bucket company to run day cabs. They were home every night, and he's like, man, you won't make no money over there. Don't you go out there and look in the backyard and pick out one of them trucks out there. That's what you need. And you couldn't have told me nothing. You couldn't tell me nothing. I got in that truck, went to hauling them golf carts, and I found out right fast, golf cart hauling is not for me. They picky folks on the other end, tight places in and out. And I mean, I went to some golf courses to where the only place you could get the truck to seemed like a mile and a half from the cart shed, and wouldn't nobody even take the time to pony you back on another. You'd take one cart and walk back to the truck. Do that 23 times.
Different class of people right there.
It was, and I found out right fast. I said, I ain't doing this. And I went to work for a fuel hauling company, and I hated that. I hated gas. Man, that stuff, it got all over your boots and everywhere. I mean, your boots stunk, and it was just go. It was never time off. It was, especially if you was the young gun out there, you ran the weekend when the old guys wanted to take the weekend off. And man, I hauled propane, and I hauled gas, and diesel, and the whole time I was doing all this, I was searching for a livestock company because that was my background. I grew up with horses and rodeoed and rode bulls, and man, all I wanted to do was I wanted to be a big, large car with a cow wagon behind it. And
yes, sir.
And I hounded that man. There was a company about an hour and a half up the road from me, and old Pulliam Trucking. Man, he had about 26 trucks, I guess it was, and they were all they were all decked out the same. If he'd get he wouldn't buy too many new nothing. It was all used trucks, and he would get them things in, and the first thing you do is run them through the shop. They all had to have the bird on the hood. They all had to have the little aluminum steps on the back of the fenders, and they had to have the bumper with 5 lights in it. It had 2 on the corners and 3 in the middle. He set all them trucks up the same. They were all different colors, but they were all set up just alike. So it was the closest to being an owner-operator you could be. And and it was sweet because I was home every other day. Every other day I was at home, and hauled. I mainly hogs, and like I told you the other day, I will tell anybody, all these kids that keep posting on the Facebook, how do I get into livestock? This that. Find you somebody hauling some hogs, because that was the best experience, and it gave me. They were very forgiving to a young kid that might take a curve a little too fast, or like say, not gouge on it, not make it pull through the curve, and come into that curve a little fast and panic, won't tap the brake. Well, you do that with a cow truck, most of the time you be on your side. But them old hogs, they just laid down and enjoyed the ride. But I can remember strutting around the house, and my wife can vouch for it. When I finally got some correspondence from that company, they sent me a letter in an envelope, and it had a picture of one of their 379s hooked to one of them Barrett flat side pots, and it was on for me. There was no not going to work for them. I mean, that was on my brain. That was going to happen, and I got turned down because I wasn't 23. They wanted. His daughters told me, "Oh, insurance. You got to be 23. You got to have, this and that, and have this many years experience." And I had heard that, and I finally got mad one day, And I said, I am not smelling another drop of gas. I'm going up here and talk to this man myself. I'm going up here face to face. And I got my pickup and I drove up the road, and I walked in that shop, and there was an office. They had an office with a window looking out in the shop. And so I thought that might have been the service guy. This is the service supervisor. I remember stepping in there, and I was probably about 135 pounds, soaking wet. Had an old big straw hat on, And I stepped foot in that office. I said, I'm looking for Mr. Pulliam. He said, well, you found him. And I said, sure enough. He said, yeah, what can I do for you? And I said, well, I've been trying to get a job over here, and I keep getting told that I'm just not old enough. And I said, and I don't understand what the deal is on that, because if I'm old enough to haul gasoline, I think I can haul some cows. And his daughter come around the corner. She said, this is that kid I was telling you about. The insurance ain't gonna let him, don't let us put anybody on till they're 23. And he said, hush, you know how hard it is to find a guy, a cowboy and a truck driver all in the same mode.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And he said, there's ways around that other stuff. And he did. He hired me right on and put me in a 87 359. Had a big Cummins 10 speed, and it was a stand-up sleeper. And back then I was young, so I thought the bigger the sleeper, the better the truck. But as I got older and matured in my rooster cruising, I'm a flat top guy.
I love a flat top too.
Yeah, if I ever bought another one, which I won't, I would get a flat top. But yeah, that gave me my start, and that just, when you're young, you don't stay places long, and I stayed with him for about a year and a half the first go round, and I went with some boys that were leased to him, and they decided that they were going on their own, and they were hauling west, and that's where I wanted to go, because the far west that I was going hauling them hogs was West Point, Mississippi, and I'd run that West Point on Sunday night. I was out there on Sunday night, Tuesday night, and Thursday night, and then I was back home Friday morning, and I was off till Sunday after lunch. I'd take off and go load them hogs again on Sunday and go right back to West Point. And so I quit him and took off with them boys, and it didn't take long to burn out. Running the Panhandle from Georgia to Hereford every Friday. I'd leave my house 6:00 Friday morning, get down there, get loaded by 10, and then about 11:00, Texas time, we were bumping the chute out there at Cattletown Feeders in Hereford, right there off of Highway 60, and
trailer trucking.
Did it every single Friday, and then went to 4 or 5 sale barns, grabbing up 5 here and 4 here, and till you get that load put together, and then I'd come all the way back to Augusta and get them things off and turn around and go do it again. And usually tried to fit in something else. I'd have a load of hogs up to Jimmy Dean in Dyersburg, Tennessee, or Williams Sausage over in Union City. We'd run one or two of them during the week, and then Friday roll around. It don't matter if we just got back in. We'd back down there loading again, going back to the Panhandle.
Oh, yeah.
But
that was some trucking back in the day.
It was good trucking, and it was. I tell people that where I wasn't in the heyday where I wanted to be. The heyday was when I was a kid, and I would say early 80s, mid 80s, riding with Grandpa. I mean, that was, man, people treated them like kings then. I mean,
there wasn't nothing like being on that road and seeing how them people would treat my granddaddy and all that. It was just amazing.
And you walk in the same, we'd always stop at the same old truck stops, and you'd walk in, and you knew who was working in there. I mean, he knew these waitresses' life stories. He'd walk in, how's your kids, and how's your, and it was just like being at the house for that hour while we were sitting there eating that hamburger and just talking. We were just, the way that drivers would sit down and you didn't know who in the world is sitting right here next to you, but you just start talking like you're sitting around the dinner table. And
that's right.
I missed that.
Oh yeah, I'm glad I got to catch the tail end of trucking being like that whenever I first got into it.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. I promise you, I tell my son all the time, I didn't know that I was driving the last of the trucks before the government got involved and said, you got to put these EGRs on here and you got to do this. And you can, I can remember when they first started, when they first started with all that mess, and then these delete kits was coming out, and I'm like, what is this delete stuff? What are they talking about? What they having to delete? And then and of course Grandpa was still driving then, and he had been there so long, he got a new truck every year, and that's when I started finding out what that was all about. All this junk that was on them, and they wouldn't half run anymore. And I miss the days when he'd get a new truck, and we would roll through the terminal in Alabama, and I got the job all the time of cleaning out the side boxes and transferring everything while he was in there taking care of paperwork, And but I can remember leaving that yard and getting up there to I-20, up there to Lincoln, and brand new truck. I mean, brand spanking new truck. And we'd pull in that truck stop, and he had a tackle box in the side box, and he pulled that thing out, and it was full of buttons and old peel buttons and springs, and he would go to wrenching on that fuel pump, and he'd pull that old spring out and stretch it like it was an accordion, and he'd change the peel on it, and then we'd hit the road, and we were blowing black coal, and I mean, just for a company truck, we were doing it. I mean,
they turn that fuel pump up.
Oh man, people used to always talk trash about him. Talk about, it must be nice when you know who you know, and you always get a fast truck. And I would go, there couldn't nobody touch him. Never. I mean, we was always running the front door. And
you'd be surprised at the people that were probably ratting on him and telling on him too. I ain't that simple having a fast truck.
Oh, definitely. Well, even me, I mean, I picked up them bad habits, and I remember when I worked for Pulliam the second time, the motor throwed a rod, had a WM14 in it, and motor throwed a rod on that. That was a 96, it was a 96 379, and coming down through Tuscaloosa, all them doggone red lights. I was headed to West Point, and doggone rod blowed out the side of that motor, and I mean it hit right behind the computer, knocked the computer off. And
wow.
So there I was dead in the water, and luckily we had usually had 2 or 3 trucks running across there that night, and me and another driver were running together. So I got on the phone with a towing company, and he went ahead and took his load, and then he came back, dropped his empty trailer, and that's when I let them pull. We didn't drop them old aluminum trailers like that loaded, and so I sat there until he got back, and then when he got back, we dropped that trailer, and they snatched my truck out from under that trailer and got him up under it real quick, and then he went on and took my load too. And
oh wow.
Yeah. And then I waited, I think it was, I can't remember, by morning I went back, and by morning William had sent me another truck on a hook, and boom, just like that, I'm back up under the trailer, and I'm back working. Well, they built the motor in mine.
Captain Hook bring it to you.
Yeah. They built the motor in mine, and when I got in it, it just wasn't right. It was missing. Something wasn't right on it, and it was just die on a hill. And I mean, I was that ain't. And he had all the trucks cut back to 78, and but I mean 78. I could pin it to the floor and come all the way across Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. Wouldn't nobody mess with me.
That's right. Keep you out of trouble.
Yeah, and then but I had a friend of mine worked on motors, and he came over here because I needed the starter went acting up, and I had to leave out the next day. So I called him, and he said, "Yeah, I got one laying in the floor." And I'll never forget it. He brought that starter over here and put it on after him and his wife got done eating one evening, and I think he might have charged me $150 for the whole shebang. And them guys ain't around no more. But I said, can you get in the computer on these trucks? And he says, well, he says, I can. He said, if they left one thing open, he said, I can get in it. And he said, why? And I said, well, because it something ain't right with it. I said, it won't pull. And I said, they won't listen to me. And I said, and I just need a little bit more. I need a little bit more so I can get a good run at the hill. And, you know, and I was young. I wanted to go fast. And,
yeah.
He said, well, let me see what I can do. And he went to tinkering around. I kept saying, no, man, boy, they got this thing locked down pretty tight. And I done give up hope. And all of a sudden I heard him go, bingo. And I said, what's bingo mean? He said, how fast you want to run? I said, don't make it look too damn bad. I said, how about 85? Put about 86. And so he said, all right. Well, I can leave it blank. You know, I can make it unlimited. I said, no, don't go that far. And so anyway, we put about 86, and I was rocking and rolling again. I felt pretty good. I was getting a good run on the hills, and then when I got out on the flat ground, I could actually outrun some folks. And that was all good and fine until the night I decided I was hanging it up. And I was going back to work for them other boys hauling them cows, and so they had a truck up in New York. He run freight too. They had flatbeds and some dry vans, but his main gig was livestock for years and years. And he anyway, when he found out I was coming in parking the truck, he was like, well, when that truck gets here, we'll put it on the hook and send it to New York. And so I got in and had to scramble, get all my stuff out, you know, because I had the old truck sitting there waiting on me. And anyway, it was about a couple of days later, I got a phone call from the girl in the office. And she said, did you have your truck turned up to 86? And I said, yeah, sure did. And she said, well, that's a no-no over here at Pulliam. And I said, well, I don't work for Pulliam no more. And, you know, and I explained to her what the deal was. Look, I can't even pull a hill with it. I didn't get much. I just wanted a little bit. I didn't take the whole cake. I just cut me a slice.
That's right. The big slice.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was it. You know, and the bad thing is, I mean, they eventually sold the company, and I mean, they quit hauling livestock altogether. That little packing house there in that town, I think they were just bringing all their meat in boxes now and just rebranding it, you know. But that's how I got started in the livestock, and that went into some showing up serious cow hauling.
Yes, sir.
5,000-6,000 miles a week, just as God, I can just remember being numb. Reach up, touch your face, and it don't even feel real, you know.
As a younger generation of drivers have no idea.
No. And I remember one night in particular, I learned to get these. It was a decongestant, but it had a D on it for decongestant. It was something. Can't remember the name brand of this allergy medicine, but
Sudafed D or whatever.
It might have been something like that, but I found out that I could take them and it helped me stay up. Well, I was on one of them runs where I done left the Carolinas. Next day I'm in Texas, reloading Texas, come back to Carolina, and I'm headed out to Nebraska. I'm just doggone tired. And my wife at the time, she had some diet pills.
Ooh, man.
And I took some of them with me as a just in case, just an insurance policy. And I'd never taken one before. And I didn't know that mixing that with that decongestant, I thought I was having a heart attack.
Dang.
I made it back home, and I remember sitting in the chair thinking my heart was going to explode.
Ooh, man.
And I kept telling her, I said, something ain't right. I was in cold sweat. She went to reading up on everything. She was like, did you take one of them allergy pills too? Like, yeah. Well, you can't mix them. And I'm like, well, I got home. But yeah, that was those days. But even when I was hauling freight with Floyd Beasley, it was load today, be where you're supposed to be at 7 the next morning. And you might load in Decatur, Alabama, and this got to be in Seaford, Delaware. You know, you trucked. I mean, But I can remember back in the old days, that's where we would spend the whole day on the weekend when we was home. Most time it was Saturdays. A lot of time we get in on Friday night. And as a kid, I wanted to turn around and go right back. I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to go. You know, I love Grandma, but I'm ready to get out. I want to get back out there on that super slab. And but we would spend all day Saturday with 3 books, making one out to turn in. And I did the same thing. I can't tell you the number of paper I've ripped up and fed to the cows.
The pen is mightier than the sword.
It is. I've been a lot of places.
Yes, sir.
I ain't been a lot of places neither.
That's right.
But I learned, these young drivers, I don't think they even. Well, these companies run them because I got the bright idea one time before I got into livestock hauling. I was so fed up with that gas hauling, I was going to go to work for a big company. And I said, I'm young. I'm going to treat it like it's the Army. I'm just going to go, and I'm going to stay gone as long as they want me to stay gone and let them direct deposit that money right in my account. And I got the bright idea that I was going to go to Covenant Transport.
Oh, wow.
And I got my mom and my granddaddy to drive my pickup truck. They rode with me to Chattanooga. And I got out the truck, had my bags, and told them bye, and I'll come get my truck when I come back through town. And they turned around and they left. And there I was in Chattanooga at the roadway Inn. Wow. In the real exclusive, beautiful part of Chattanooga, And oh boy, I go into this orientation. I didn't even unpack my bags. I mean, I put them in the room, and then I went to this orientation. And on the first day of this orientation, there must have been 150 people in there, and they sat right there and gave everything they did was open book, and they read along and told you what to write down. And I'm like, you're giving these people the answers to this stuff, and I mean, The hazmat, even the hazmat stuff. I mean, it was like, here, sign this, pass this card forward, and we'll stamp it. But
wow,
I wasn't satisfied that. Anyway, they stood up there and they started talking about, well, this every trip you take is going to be in this trip pack, and you're going to go, X amount of miles. You're going to stop at this truck stop. You're going to put on 22 gallons of fuel. You're going to go into this next state. You're going to stop at this truck stop, and you're going to put 70 gallons here, and this is the route you're going to take. And I didn't like nobody telling me which way I was going, and I didn't like nothing that wouldn't let me log. I did my mileage, and I usually, if I was on 2-lane, I kept a 50-mile-an-hour average. If I was on the 4-lane, I'd keep it about, especially if you run the 70s, I'd keep it about 60, 65-mile-an-hour average.
That's right.
And I didn't count all that sitting in Atlanta mess. That wasn't slowing me down. It might have did in real time, but it didn't in the ferry world. And,
that's right.
And but we were. I was listening to all this mess, and then they took us to the road test, and we all got in this van, and I'm riding along. There was this young kid. I mean, I was fairly young back then myself, but this kid was sitting beside me, and he's like, yeah. He said, this will be the first time I've ever been in a truck. I'm going to take this road test. This is going to be fun. And I said, first time in a truck? And I said, what are you doing here? You ain't never been in a truck before? Your family don't drive? What? And he said, nah. I was laying on the couch, and my dad come in there and told me that I was going to have to get a job or join the Army. And he said, and I opened up a magazine, and here this ad was, said, no experience necessary. We'll train you. I'm thinking, oh, God, I hope I ain't in the road test with this dude.
Oh, wow.
And then when we did get to the road test, there was a doggone woman that hadn't been driving a year and a half. And she was given the road test. And I'm like, what is this? So anyway, after sitting in that bunk and hearing horns blowing and seeing red lights go under, we went under. And I was like, nah, I'm getting out of this before I get killed. And I done had all I could take. And I called Mama. And I said, I hate to do it to you. And she had just got back home. It's about a 4-hour ride. I said, turn around and come get me. I ain't sleeping up here. This place like the Hot Air Baltimore.
Wow.
And yeah. So I sat in that dang room with my suitcase in my lap, watching Andy Griffith till 4 hours later when I heard my old power stroke pull in there. It was like I'd been drifting at sea for 7 days, and and the Coast Guard showed up.
I've been found.
But I can tell you now, I made my mind up then that no more mega carriers. They just went up there and talked about
mega carriers.
Whatnot, and they get all these people to come in there and go to work when they promise you all these miles, and they might give you them miles that first week, maybe even that second week, but then they get back to normal, to where you sitting and waiting. You're live loading and live unloading. All that dropping hook is, seems like that's for the elites. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I've always drove, for a small guy. I always, I would have to say that. Well, there was one time when I moved out to South Dakota that I took a job with a company that had just been bought out by SMX. And so that was about the biggest. I still remember that old big baby blue dolphin. I thought I was going to go down there and get one of them 379s that the company that they had bought out got, but no, I was low man on totem pole. I got put right in one of them SMX one of them 388 Peterbilts. The thing was so doggone aerodynamic that it wouldn't even suck no wind in the windows. And,
wow.
Yeah, I tried that for a few weeks. We'll just call it that. A few weeks. And yeah, I gave that up, and I come back home, and I went right back to Mr. Pulliam with my hat in my hand. And
oh wow,
he hired me right back, put me in the truck, and it was good for a little while, but then a good year and a half again, I didn't have that itch again. The region wasn't cutting it no more. I wanted to go west.
Oh yeah.
I went to work for a friend of mine that he worked for CSX Railroad. He was an engineer, and he wanted to drive, but he wanted a truck, and he bought a truck. He bought a 98 379, had a 34.6E with a 10-speed in it, and he bought it at an auction. And back then, I think he might have gave $38,000 for it. And
man,
he had it. He didn't even own a CDL, and he trusted a guy that ran 2 or 3 trucks, and he said, if I put this truck over, if I lease this truck to you, and you put a driver in it, that'll then I can make some money, and you make some money, and we'll all be happy. Well, he found out real quick, like, that ain't trucking don't usually work like that. And I was actually hauling logs at the time. I'd quit and came home, and I was hauling logs, and that guy called me, and he said, man, I need some help this weekend. And I said, what you need? And he said, I need a driver. He said, got a flatbed. He said, I bought a building I've been tearing down up in Virginia and Bristol. He said, up there around the Bristol area. He said, I need somebody to drive my Pete while I take my 2-ton and my gooseneck and bring it all home. I said, yeah. I said, I can do that. I said, we'll leave Saturday and be back Saturday evening or something, Sunday morning latest. And that was the biggest mistake I ever made. I went up there and I got in that truck, looked out over that big 379 hood again, and suddenly that 01 Mac and them logs had to go. Went and hauled that, and on the way back we talked on the radio, and we just finally come up with a plan. He was like, hey, you got all them contacts from hauling cows all them years. He said, I got my truck over there, or that truck you in, this over there with such and such, and pulling one of their trailers. And he said, but I got a trailer. And he said, would you be interested in driving, going back out on the road again? I said, yeah, I think I would. And yeah, I went home, told Unc I give him 2 weeks. I was leaving. And never forget that, the day I left. I mean, nobody said a word, really. We just kept hauling wood, and it was kind of a ruckus, really, because the guys that worked for him, they half didn't come in, and so, I'd get there and park the truck, and while he's loading my truck, I was out there on the skidder gathering wood. And or if we was in some plantation pine or something, I'd get on the cut down machine, go out there and cut down a couple of loads while he was loading a few trailers. But I remember him that Friday when it was all done. I remember his old man come pulling up over there where we was at, and he didn't say much, but when he did talk, you listened. He told waved him to come over here, and he said something to him, and he come back over and sat down. He said, he wants to know what color dog you want. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, dog. He said you and him gonna go truck shopping Monday and go pick out a new dog. What color you want? I said, man, it ain't about that. I said, I just can't get it out my blood. I said, livestock hauling is in my blood, and that's what I want to do. I said, and I'm just over here. I'm sitting at the mill looking around, and the rest of the 300 trucks that are lined up out there day after day after day, and I'm like, is this where I want to be when I'm 50? And
oh yeah.
So I give it up. Went back to truck, but now this time it was good. It was real good. Man, he's at the time. I mean, I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life. He was paying me 35 cents hub mile, empty or loaded, didn't matter. And here I was just nailing down them miles every week. I mean, just we were just. I mean, we were calling everybody. So we were. And when the phone started ringing, we was trying to oblige everybody, and that was hard with one truck, one driver. But he kept me awake many a night going across the northern part of Missouri, though. He'd step on a train in Carolina, and he would take it to Atlanta. And then they would put him up in a motel, for X amount of hours, and then bring a train back. And so when he was doing that all-night deal, he knew I was trucking. He called, man, he kept me awake a lot of times because, we always left here heavy. And if I was going to Nebraska, which the last years or a couple of years I did, I went to Nebraska a lot. And I would stop in Nashville, Illinois at a little truck stop, a little fuel stop right there. The last one that had a platform scale before you get to St. Louis. And I'd pull on there and see if I could see what I weighed. If I was still heavy and I needed fuel, I just knew I had to go north out of St. Louis, and I'd go up to Hannibal, and I'd cut across 36, and I had to make them Rockport scales before 6 in the morning. And that was that old 36 across the top of Missouri from Hannibal over to St. Joe had lots of construction going on at the time back then, so it would veer you over, make it a 2-lane again, and then veer back to a 4-lane, and it was just 2, 4. But I can remember coming across there some nights just stomping my foot on the floor and the window down. It'd be 18 degrees, and I got the window down trying to
stay awake.
Trying to get that. Yeah. And, when the internet come out, and my wife informed me that we could burn CDs. My truck had changed then, buddy. I had a suitcase full of CDs, and I had several of them that was labeled. It didn't say who was on it. It just said I-40 West 3 a.m. and I'd put it in, and it knew just what I needed.
Oh yeah, I spent a minute in that truck and that old music Conway with her. Somebody keeping me awake. Crystal Ledoux. I'm a big Crystal Ledoux fan too.
Oh yeah, yes. Golly, yeah, and I had a variety too. I mean, I was old country, and back then the new country for me, that was Clint Black and Mark Chestnut, and
the 90s was a good time for country music.
Oh man, it was great. But then when I needed to stay awake, them old American Class Peaks, they all came with an amp and, Alpine radio, and had speakers behind the seat right there in the corners.
Yep.
And up it, and, oh man, them things sounded good. And I'd slide one of them Metallica CDs in there and just crank it.
Oh yeah.
And
yes,
I would hammer down. Radar Love, that song gets you a ticket.
Oh yeah, Twilight Zone will do it too. Twilight Zone.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. It sure will. But I got 3 tickets back to back one week, and that was when I finally broke down and bought my first Valentine. And and that Valentine, now I had passports and all that other mess. Back then it was all Beltronics. That's the best thing since sliced bread. There ain't none of them out there can roll with that Valentine. That Valentine. In fact, I believe in it so strongly that I have 2 of them still.
Wow.
And one stays in my one stays in my farm truck. I got a '01 Dodge, old Cummins flatbed, and it stays mounted in it up on the roof, and then I got another that I bounce back and forth between the rodeo rides and my everyday ride, but I won't leave home without it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
My family done got used to, if we pull out the driveway and I hit the brakes halfway down the road, I don't care if we 4 miles away from home, we turn around going back. I ain't riding without that Valentine.
Oh yeah.
That thing has saved me way more money than it cost. I promise you.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's but then I actually got a got a radar detector ticket in Louisiana.
No bird dog.
Yeah, sure did. They we went through there every week coming back home, and I'm loaded with cows coming back to Augusta. Monroe. It was prime time that night. Lots of traffic, and that's the funny thing was, this is one of them nights where I just sitting in the right lane, just listening to my music and doing my thing, and I heard them say something on the radio about DOT made a flip, and he going back westbound. Well, hell, I was eastbound, so I wasn't worried about him, and then that old dog went to beeping, and I said, let me reach up there and I'd unplug it, and I rocked on for a couple of miles. Things were kind of quiet. I got on the radio. I said, whatever happened to that old DOT? Nobody really said nothing. I ain't seen him. And so I reached up there and pushed that plug in and had that dog back on. And I said, well, if he's around here, if he's coming up behind me or something, this thing will let me know. Well, it never said a word. Nothing. And back then, Louisiana Weights and Measures ran them old GMC Astro minivans.
Yeah.
And I noticed the headlights coming up beside me in the left lane looked like one of them minivans. Well, I didn't think about it being none of them, and it was coming up pretty strong and then got right beside me, and it never got past my stack. And I kept trying to look down and see what that was, and I wasn't speeding. And about that time, the doggone bird dog went off, and that red light flew across the dash. And as soon as it did that little minivan that was beside me turned into a Christmas tree.
Ooh, he done caught you.
He got me. And all I had to do was leave the dang thing unplugged until I was not running over the speed limit. I was just doing my thing. And but he sure did. He walked up on the passenger side, and I always kept a briefcase in the passenger seat, and it was open. I always had my stuff right there. And he walked up and he opened that passenger door, and when he saw that big briefcase, he waved his hand over it. And he's like, "Driver, could you ease this briefcase shut?" I said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And he just went to cutting up a little bit. He's like, "I'm used to y'all going west with cattle. I wasn't. Where are y'all going east with cows?" I said, "We come through here every week hauling kill cows back over to Augusta, Georgia." He said, "Oh, okay." And never missed a beat. He just said, "Well, let me see your bird dog." And I done took it and shoved it in the pocket behind the seat when the lights came on. But the way he said it, he was too damn confident. He knew I had it. So I wasn't even going to argue with him. I reached back there behind the seat, and I said, "Look," I said, if you're going to write me a ticket for this dog, then write me a ticket. But you ain't confiscating my dog and writing me a ticket. And he said, "Oh, I ain't confiscating it." He said, "I'm just going to write the serial number down to prove that I had my hands on it in case you challenge it in court." And I said, "You going to seriously write me a ticket for having this bird dog?" And he said, "Yes, against the law." He said, "You're not supposed to have it in a commercial vehicle." And I said, "Why is that?" He said, "I don't make the rules. I just enforce them." And but he handed me a piece of paper, and it didn't have nothing on it as far as the fine or anything like that. And I was like, "What's?" He said, "They'll mail it to you." He said, "It's just a slap on the wrist." He said, "I give them out all the time." Well, I'm thinking probably like a $25 seatbelt ticket. Nah, I pulled that. It took 3 weeks to get to my mailbox, but when I pulled that thing out, it was $150.
Oh wow, for a bird dog.
For a bird dog. Yep.
I know in Virginia, the state of Virginia, they used to cut up real bad about them bird dogs in Virginia.
Oh yeah, I remember when I was a kid. That's when Pops used to run he run one of them passports. I'll never forget the way it flipped on and counted down every time he turned the key on that thing, and and anyway, I could still hear that thing going off. But when we crossed that Virginia line, he pulled it off the dash. He unplugged, pulled it off the dash, and he didn't mess with them. And I hadn't had too many, which I didn't spend a whole lot of time in Virginia. I didn't. That's one thing I loved about hauling cows was, I went to the West. I went Midwest. So I ran 20, 40, and 20, 40, and 70. Them was my runs.
Oh yeah, man.
Especially that 20. I mean, that's how I quit hauling. I quit picking it. Back then, they would only pay you a flat rate coming back to the packing house, and they'd always pull that. Oh, it's a backhaul.
Oh.
And well, tell my truck that maybe it gets better mileage on a backhaul because
yeah.
But she talked me into going down to she's old Paula. We used to call her. She was the dispatcher for Shapiro over here. I called her to see if I could get me some, get me something coming back. Really, no more than it paid. I like to be empty on back into Louisiana, and then I'll pick something up and come on. But she talked me into going down to Roswell, New Mexico. She said,
wow.
You in Hereford, this would be perfect for you. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm scratching my head thinking, dang, they in Augusta, Georgia, they buying cows out of Roswell, New Mexico. But sure enough, I went down there and loaded these old big Holsteins. They were so doggone big. I mean, I had 28 of them on the trailer, and I'm loaded. And I struck out I pulled the map out, and I mapped my way across there, and I was going to run as straight a path as I could from Roswell, and it brought me out and met back up with I-20 right there at Sweetwater, Texas. And then it's 20 all the way to Augusta. There ain't no getting off. She told me that that Roswell paid $1,600 to come back. And it was 1,601 miles to the packing house.
Wow.
So when I got them off, I did it. And when I got them off, I remember it was a mixture of, when the man gets so dead dog tired, he can get angry pretty easy. And I just let my tiredness fuel that anger. Boy, I called her and I told her, I said, you got me, but you won't ever get me again. I said, as far as I'm concerned, you and that whole packing house can lose my number. And I might have said a few other things too, but oh man, it was. I started going to Gaffney after that. I went to Brown Packing no matter what. Even though Augusta, it was right in my backyard. It was straight to the house. I'd go to Gaffney just to prove a point. Every week. Just like Tennessee DOT, I got tired of them messing with me, and it got where if I was going to Dyersburg over there on that's above Jackson, I would run all the way to Birmingham and run 78 and go that way. I wouldn't stay on the big road and run up through Nashville no more. I wasn't doing it no more. Any of them runs like that, I don't care if I was going to Illinois. I went I went to Birmingham, went up. I struck Tennessee for about 6 months.
Wow.
Stayed out of it. Did not ever. I wasn't giving them no more money. And
can't say that I blame. Tennessee used to be bad. I've heard stories from them older hands about how they used to get up there and go through your coolers and everything.
Yeah. Well, I got a ticket. I loaded some cows in Lexington, North Carolina, and had come back out of the woods, got on 40, and was just past the 81-40 split, headed toward Knoxville. Come down at about the 412, I think it was, at Dandridge, Tennessee. And I was in the right lane. I had a 60 Series Detroit in that truck, and so she was talking. That old Jake was just a talking coming down the hill. And I just got underway. I knew I had about a 22-hour ride ahead of me, so I wasn't in no hurry. I just got loaded and I'm just getting going. And I was kind of dragging my feet a little bit too, because I wanted that traffic over in Crashville to die down a little bit before I got there. But I heard somebody say something on the radio about DOT, and I look over to my left, and I caught there was a red ball moving truck over in the third lane over by the wall where we ain't supposed to be, And I said, well, if he's back there, he's going after him. I'm not doing nothing wrong. And I look up in my mirror and I see headlights, blinking and blue lights, and I said, well, go around. I'm in the right lane. I'm not bothering nobody. You got plenty. I thought he was trying to get out from around me. And but no, he wanted me. He pulled me over at the bottom of that hill. And he was a young guy, and I will tell you, it was completely unprofessional. He just walked up and snatched my passenger door open. And then he said, you move a little fast, ain't you, cow truck? I said, no, I wasn't. And, I'm getting passed by cars. I was in the right lane just with my halo on. Right. And, I knew that once I got out of Tennessee, I was going to let her eat once it got dark. And but he did. He said, no, I had you at 79. And I said, wow. I'm loaded, coming down a hill in a 70-mile-an-hour interstate. You pulled me over for a 79. And he said, oh, yeah. It wound up, I had to call a number, and when I called this number, it was, I think I was told something about, well, the judge is fishing and won't be back till such and such. And they were supposed to help me out a little bit, but they didn't help me out. They charged me $146 for doing 79 and a 70. And that wasn't my first run in Tennessee. I had another run in at the Manchester Scales.
Used to be some bad scales right there.
Yeah. And, I wasn't sweating them because back then we didn't, we ran them closed tandems. We didn't have a spread. And so, there ain't no adjusting it. You are what you are. You can look at when you're picking up old sale barn cows, you can look at the sheets if they were nice enough to leave them balled up and stuck in the gate. You could read the sheets and see what they weighed when they ran across the scales and kind of build your load that way, know where to put what. And, but a lot of times you didn't have that luxury. And the night that Manchester got me, I was coming out of Missouri. I had loaded 2 different sale barns and got a full load of bulls. But I was happy because I was like looking at the sale barn receipts. And I hadn't put it on the cat scale, but I was looking at the papers and adding them all up, and I knew what I was, empty and full of fuel. And I'm like, shoot, man, I ain't grossing but 78,000 pounds. We legal tonight because ain't nobody taking. they didn't never mess with us on the axle. It was just if we wasn't over gross, we was good. And And I remember coming on down thinking, I ain't even worried about Manchester this time, 'cause I used to get off and go by Grandma's house and come back out down yonder. And I was tired. It was dark. I mean, it's middle of the night. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, we good. Well, couldn't get nobody to answer me about the scales. And so, but I was like, yeah, it's 2 in the morning. I think it was like on a Friday night, you know. I'm like, man, they closed. Well, I get there, and there's some trucks. I see the blinkers coming on ahead of me. Like, man, surely this ain't over. Then I saw the green light. And I'm like, oh,
you
man.
got that gut feeling. Oh, no.
Oh, I did. And, but I was like, you know what, though? I ain't overgrown. I'm good. I pulled in there, and they had all the lights off. The building was blacked out, and the green light was on the scale, and everybody was just rolling across. And they got to me. I'm thinking I ain't even got my foot up there ready to hit the clutch. I'm just, we just easing on. And the damn red light come on. And he come across the loudspeaker, and he said, set your brakes and bring me your logbook. And I said, hope he can take a joke. And turns out he couldn't. And I remember it had took all day to get this sales over and get these bulls. And I done came all the way out to West Kansas and dropped the feeders off, and then I bounced all the way across to Missouri and spent all day loading these bulls. And I remember coming out of from Cape Girardeau over into Tennessee, thinking, I know I probably ought to do something with that book, but I'm not over gross. We good. I'm just gonna ride. I'm going home. But yeah, I went in there and handed him that logbook, and he said, "Go pull your truck off the scale and pull around back." And I mean, he was just a stick about all of it. And by the time I come back in there, he done glanced at it enough and told me I was out of hours. And I said, "No, I had enough to get to that rest area on the other side of you, but you killed my time." And he said, "No, you didn't." And I saw where the last time I'd been in that book, I was in West Kansas.
Dang.
And he wrote me a ticket. I'm $250 worth of ticket. And so then I realized me and him wasn't gonna be friends. So when he handed me my logbook back and he shut the lights off and turned his little reading light back on, I went out the door, and it just, the asshole in me just come alive. And I turned around and I opened up that door and I said, "Hey, man," I said, "I don't know who you thought I was tonight in this silver bull wagon, but I'm not the bull hauler that your old lady left you for." I thought he was going to throw something at me. Oh, man. He told me to leave. And that was the last time, I promise you, it was the last time I graced that section of highway where that scale is. I was done with that. I was done with that.
Oh, man.
But
we probably got plenty for a good podcast or wherever. If you want to come back on again, we could do some more stories and all that, man. I know you got plenty of them to share with us.
Oh, man, I got a lot of them. I get talking about trucking in the good old days. I can go on for hours. That's the
thing about me getting into this podcasting thing. I like to listen and hear all the stories and all.
Yes. Well, that's the only thing. You know, we did the Facebook thing just to keep up with my daughter's rodeo stuff, you know, when things were going on, this and that. But boy, when I found some of these old truck sites, it's past bedtime lots of times when I realized when my eyes are hurting, I got to get off this thing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I like going down the road. I don't know. if it ever gets back to its glory, which I don't know if we ever will, but I know they're working on it. If it ever got back to trucking, I wouldn't mind getting back out there for a little bit. But
oh yeah,
I don't know that with me raising cows and dealing with them on a daily basis now, I don't know that I want to be in. I'm thinking if I get back out there, I want a drop and hook dry van deal is what I want.
Amazing.
Yeah, I want to go back there and open them 2 doors and back up until I feel something.
Oh yeah, man.
But that's how I got my start, and I feel like that's those days being teenager like that, and Grandpa letting me drive and things like, we hauled a lot of textile stuff in bales of cotton and bales of fiber stacked to the roof, and you had to. They were top heavy. You had to learn how to do it, and I think that's what helped with the. I think that's what helped with the livestock. All those years of hauling them old high loads like that in them dry vans and heavy loads. It taught me a lot. It also taught me that some of them steel spools that Owens Corning would run that fiber on, if you took a traffic circle a little too fast, they poked a pretty hole in the side of a brand new Wabash.
Ooh, yeah, them boss man don't like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No. But that's the good thing about it. We come up in a time to where it was a whole lot. I feel like it was a whole lot more forgiving then.
Oh yeah.
Now it's just all about money and paperwork.
Yeah, and insurance corporations, man, they took over everything so bad.
Yeah, lawyers, and insurance companies working together and that's everything. That's even with the medical and everything. Lawyers and insurance companies and have ruined this country.
That's like driving a log truck. You got to watch out because you got people that'll pull out in front of you just to get a lawsuit.
Oh yeah,
brakes. It's crazy.
I know it. They'll risk it all for that free.
Oh yeah, you get that. Wait for what I like to call it. They waiting for the eagle to shit every month.
That's it. Well, I'm gonna tell you, this eagle handler's tired. Tired of feeding it.
I know that's right, man. See, I appreciate you coming on the show and all that, man. We look forward to having you again.
Hey, I'm available anytime.
And we thank you for your service, Mr. Truck Driver. I had to throw that in there.
Well, it's a thankless job, that's for sure.
Yes, sir.
But it sure used to be different.
Yes, sir. Maybe it'll get back that way again, man. Well, TC, I'll stay in touch with you, man. I look forward to talking to you some more.
Yeah, sure enough, man. Give me a holler.
All right, brother. Y'all have a good night now.
All right, you too.